A British island remains so dangerous that the government banned people from setting foot on it for nearly half a century. The reason was not a nuclear accident, a chemical spill, or a deadly virus, but a wartime experiment that went far beyond what anyone expected. Deep on the coast of Scotland lies Gruinard Island, a small and seemingly peaceful piece of land surrounded by cold Atlantic waters. Today, it looks ordinary, but for decades it carried one of the darkest reputations in Europe. Behind that reputation was a secret military project, a biological weapon, and a mystery that refused to disappear. And the most disturbing part is that the consequences lasted long after the war itself had ended. Before Gruinard Island became infamous, it was little more than a remote island known mostly to local fishermen and nearby communities. Located on Scotland's rugged northwest coast, it was isolated, difficult to access, and largely untouched. Then, World War II changed everything. As Nazi Germany expanded across Europe, Britain faced a terrifying possibility. Military leaders feared that future wars might not only be fought with bombs and bullets, they could also be fought with invisible weapons. That fear led scientists to a remote island few people had ever heard of. The search for a new kind of warfare. By the early 1940s, British military planners were exploring biological warfare. Their goal was simple but frightening: find a way to cripple an enemy without conventional combat. One organism quickly caught their attention: anthrax. Anthrax bacteria produce spores that can survive extreme conditions. Heat, cold, drought, it made little difference. The spores could remain dormant for years and still become deadly. Scientists believed anthrax could devastate livestock and food supplies on a massive scale. But there was one problem. No one knew how effective it would be outside a laboratory. To find the answer, they needed a real-world test, and that test would forever change Gruinard Island. Operation Vegetarian. The British government launched a secret project known as Operation Vegetarian. The plan was astonishing. Scientists developed cattle feed cakes containing anthrax spores. If dropped over enemy territory, grazing animals would consume them. The infection could spread through livestock and potentially create widespread food shortages. Before such a weapon could ever be considered, researchers needed evidence. In 1942, Gruinard Island was selected as the testing ground. The island's isolation made it ideal. If something went wrong, officials believed the contamination could be contained. That assumption would soon prove dangerously optimistic. The experiment. Researchers transported sheep to the island and detonated experimental devices containing anthrax spores. The results shocked even some of the scientists involved. The sheep died quickly. The bacteria had worked exactly as intended. But another discovery was even more alarming. The spores remained alive in the soil. Weeks passed, then months, yet the contamination persisted. The test had answered one question while creating another. How long could anthrax survive in the environment? The answer would become the island's curse. Before we continue, which part of this story surprises you the most so far? Let me know in the comments. And if hidden places with unbelievable histories fascinate you, consider subscribing, because some of the locations we uncover next are even stranger. A place marked off limits. Before testing continued, scientists realized the contamination was not disappearing. Anthrax spores were remarkably resilient. Officials quickly restricted access to Gruinard Island. Warning notices appeared. Maps identified the island as dangerous. Local people learned to keep their distance. What was expected to be a temporary military site had become something else entirely. An island that could not safely be used. An island trapped by its own history. Yet the true scale of the problem was only beginning to emerge. The decades of silence. World War II eventually ended, Europe rebuilt, governments changed, technology advanced, but Gruinard Island remained closed. Year after year, tests showed the spores were still present. This was not a matter of months. It was not even a matter of years. The contamination lasted for decades. The island became known as Anthrax Island. That nickname spread far beyond Scotland. The story sounded almost unbelievable. How could a tiny wartime experiment continue affecting a place for so long? Scientists had discovered something unsettling. Some biological agents could leave scars that outlasted entire generations. Government under pressure. By the 1970s and early 1980s, public patience was wearing thin. Environmental concerns were growing across the world. People wanted answers. Why had the island not been cleaned? Why was it still dangerous after all these years? Then a mysterious protest group drew international attention to the issue. The activists claimed they had removed contaminated soil from Gruinard Island and delivered it near government facilities. Whether symbolic or practical, the message was impossible to ignore. The contamination was no longer a forgotten wartime problem. It had become a public embarrassment. Authorities could delay action no longer, and what happened next would determine whether the island could ever be reclaimed. If you didn't know that one military test could affect an island for nearly 50 years, hit the like button. The battle to clean the island. In the 1980s, the British government finally launched a major decontamination effort. The challenge was enormous. Researchers treated contaminated soil across large sections of the island. Thousands of gallons of disinfectant solutions were sprayed. Extensive scientific testing followed. Officials needed certainty. A single surviving concentration of spores could undermine the entire operation. Years of monitoring produced encouraging results, but scientists remained cautious. Gruinard Island had already defied expectations once. No one wanted to make the same mistake twice. Then came the moment of truth. The declaration. In 1990, after years of work and repeated testing, the government officially declared Gruinard Island safe. The restrictions were lifted, the quarantine ended. For the first time in nearly half a century, the island was no longer considered a biological hazard. On paper, the story was finished, yet many people remained skeptical. Trust is difficult to restore, especially when a place has spent decades associated with one of the deadliest biological agents known to science. Even today, the name Gruinard Island still carries a sense of unease, but the biggest lesson of the story was still waiting to emerge. The most disturbing discovery. The true significance of Gruinard Island was never the experiment itself, it was what the experiment revealed. Anthrax spores released during wartime testing remained a threat for decades, not years, decades. A weapon created during one global conflict continued affecting the environment long after that conflict had faded into history. That discovery changed how governments viewed biological warfare. Unlike conventional weapons, biological agents can create consequences that persist long after soldiers leave the battlefield. Gruinard became living proof, and that raises a troubling question. If contamination from a relatively small experiment lasted nearly half a century, what might happen if biological weapons were ever used on a much larger scale? Today, Gruinard Island appears calm. Grass grows across its landscape. Seabirds nest along its shores. Nothing about it immediately reveals the extraordinary history beneath its surface. Yet this small Scottish island became one of the world's most important warnings about biological warfare. Its story is really not about anthrax. It is about unintended consequences, about how scientific ambition, military necessity, and human miscalculation can collide in ways nobody fully anticipates. And perhaps the most unsettling lesson is this: some weapons continue fighting long after the war is over. What we uncovered next reveals a place hidden from the public for decades, where the official explanation only made the mystery deeper. Subscribe to the Forbidden Atlas for forgotten places, hidden histories, and mysteries that governments, time, and nature tried to erase.